Now let's look at the classes from the java.util package. There are more classes. I find there are more other useful classes in the java.util package. Okay, one of the classes is a class called optional. Optional of some type T. Okay, see, one of the most commonly found exception at right, one of the most commonly found exceptions in Java has been the null pointer exception. Okay, so what is this null pointer exception? What is this null pointer exception? When does it occur? And what is the main reason for the occurrence? Okay.
Trying to point towards value which is null.
So mainly when it happens is something like this. Maybe, for example, you have, let's consider that our account class, okay, our account class has got two fields for the name. One is the name and joint account holder's name. Okay, fine. We already have a name which is the primary account holder's name, and there's another field for the joint account holder's name. Okay, now all the time joint account holder name may not be available. Okay, in that case what you might be doing is you might leave that field as null. Okay, fine. And when it is left as null and you have provided a method called, and so you might have a method, public string method, which says get joint holder name. Okay, so in the account class somewhere, I'm just showing part of the code. Okay, you had a private variable of type string joint holder name. Okay, and it may or not always be getting initialized, it might remain null also, and the code which you have written is saying, okay, return this dot joint holder name. Right? So there's no problem with this code. Okay, now what happens is the one who is using the account class, he's got an account object AC equals, fine, whatever way it may have been created, he's got some account object, and then he says, oh, let me try to do something on the joint holder name. So when he does something like this, saying, okay, AC dot get joint holder name, fine, and dot length, I want to know the size of that. We have the length method, something like this. Okay, so when he tries an operation on a null object, right, something which is null, this is where you get a null pointer exception. The cause of this was how it could have been avoided here if he had done a check. Fine. What should have been done? If AC dot get joint holder name is not equal to null. Okay, then do some operation on that joint holder name. Okay, but maybe you don't check, you don't realize. The idea is he's not realizing that there is a method which may be returning null also. The one who designed the method didn't have a mechanism to say I may be returning a null. Right? You are writing some method. This is just some method, right? Okay, this is some method which is returning a value, and in this case it's always possible that this value may be null also. See, if there is someone saying, oh, get account number, I don't think account number may be null, or get name, primary name would always be there, right? Okay, the one who is creating the object, he should have taken care in the constructor that he's not getting a null there. Okay, so those checks would always be in place. Okay, but it's something like this, someone who is giving out, right? Now this field, if you look at the joint holder name, fine, it's something which should be, which may or may not exist, that's certain. Okay, and therefore what should have been done here is, there has to be a mechanism which says, this can be null. There's no mechanism currently which can say that this method which I have written may be returning a null also. Of course, you can put it in the documentation, but then who is reading the documentation? Right? It's always to be there. Yes, you must be writing a documentation like this, which says, oh, the joint holder name, this may return a null. Okay, and your documentation can say all that. Okay, but then the question is, who is reading the documentation? People don't read the documentation and they forget, oh, this can also be returning a null. I'll just take an example of a joint holder name. It could be any method. And so most of the cases where it happens is, you have a method returning a null, which has possibility of returning a null. Okay, so in such cases where we have like this, the one who is writing this method itself can make a change and make the invoker aware that, oh, you may get a null also. You need to carry out a check. Okay, and that's where we say, oh, this is an optional. And we can say joint holder name is optional. So what you might do here is, you'll say, okay, I will be returning an optional string. You can change like this. And the idea is this, because the return type is not a string, it's optional, fine, he will have to use the method. Okay, we'll see how to change this part. Even this will have to change. Okay, this will go through a change. But before going to the change, I'm just trying to show you that how, first thing what will be affected is when he says get joint holder name dot length. Now length is not a method of optional, so you're not using it like a string, one thing. So your normal usage using like a string, that itself brings his attention to the, it's sufficient for someone seeing, oh, it's not returning string, it's returning an optional string. When he says it's returning an optional string, now he's immediately aware that this can be null also. Okay, this is something which may get null. It's not a string, it's an optional string. Okay, fine. So how about, so this code which we had earlier, where a string was used, but instead of string, if it's optional which is used, and we might be able to write something like this. Instead of saying ac dot get joint holder name, where this joint holder name is not returning a string but returning an optional. Okay, dot if present. Yeah, actually instead of length, some other, if we were doing something on that object, fine, here you could have passed a consumer of string. If present, I want to do this. Okay, so we have, so you don't write actually the if statement, but specify the action to be taken in case it's a, if it is available. So what is optional? Okay, let's look at this now. An object of the type optional okay, so if you have an object of the type optional, okay, right, look at it as a box So it's an option of string, then it can contain a string. So it is a box which is either empty or it has one object only. Fine, it is either empty or one object only. Okay, how do we create object of the optional? Optional class doesn't have a constructor. Okay, it has provided 3 static methods. There are 3 static methods in the optional. So this may or may not contain an object. That's the whole point. Okay, if at all object is there, it's only one object, or it is an empty object. So optional may be empty or may have only one object. The object will be of type T. If it's an optional of T, the object is of type T. Okay, so you will have methods to fetch the object. Okay, let's see that. Fine. Just the idea is that it's just consider it just like one box which may be empty or it may have one object. Okay, fine. So okay, fine. So let's come to what is this optional thing. Okay, and how to create object of optional. Okay, here when it says return this dot joint holder name, where I understand joint holder name is a string type, but my method has to return optional of string. Fine, and I understand this may be null. Okay, then the way to create would be to use a static method optional dot of nullable and use like this. Okay, oh, we have used a static method, right? So let's check this. What is this optional? Optional of T. Okay, there is this class called optional of T, part of java.util package. Okay, and static methods. Let's look at these static methods are there to create object of the optional. There are 3 static methods. Okay, so we have a public static method to return optional of T. Okay, so type parameter is T and name of the method is one method is empty. You understand what it will do? It will return it's returning optional. Empty is returning an empty box. Okay, fine. So 3 ways to create optional. There's another method called off, and the third method is of nullable. Okay, fine. Empty, we understand what it does. Returns an optional which is always going to be an empty one. Right? Of nullable returns an optional which will be either empty or it may have a value. Sorry, both of these methods, they have a parameter of type T. Okay. Okay. In case of off nullable, the difference between off and the off nullable is, in this, what the object which you are passing in the off method, if that is null, it will throw an exception. Okay, no such element exception is what it will find. This throws a no such element exception. Fine. In case T is null. Right? And this will not throw an exception even if it's null. So in this case, if off is successful, you are getting always an optional which has an element. It's not an empty one. Off will not return an empty optional, whereas off nullable may return either empty or a filled up optional object. Okay, so this is one aspect, how to create a optional object. Okay, and always the idea is your methods must indicate by using optional. Okay, fine. So the idea is your method may have a return type saying optional, so it becomes an indication to the others who are calling the method that, oh, there is a check which is needed to be done. Okay, let's see what are the other methods available in the optional. So these are static methods. Now on an instance of option, first thing what you might like to do is fetch the value if it is there, or okay, first check if there is something or not. Okay, so we have the public methods. So now this is instance methods. Okay, so instance methods are like this. We have one is a public method, returns boolean. Name of the method is empty, or the opposite of that can be is present. Okay, fine. If it is empty, there's no question of asking for any element from it. If it is present, yes, you can check if it is fine. Okay, then we might do certain things, but we would like to get the value. So there are different methods. Again, we have a method to return t. Okay, it's an option of t, and the method is get. This throws an exception. In case of empty. Okay, so if it's an empty, get will throw an exception. Okay, but then what's the option then? So we have the method called. Another way to get the value can be, you won't get a null here. One thing, none of these methods are going to return a null. They'll either throw an exception. If it is empty and you're asking for value, you'll get an exception. Okay, but what you can do is here is, instead of saying get, you can use make use of a method called or else, where you give the default, something like, I'll call it as a default. In case it is empty, this is a value to be given. Otherwise, you're getting the value.
If it is not present, the default is.
Yes, if it is empty, you'll get the default value.
Default is the value which we want
when it is empty. So this method returns the value, and if value is not present, default. Okay, fine. We have a few methods like this. One of the methods is to return void. Okay, name of the method is if present. If it is present, carry out this action, consumer of t. Okay, the action to be taken can be given like this. See, normally our code used to be something like this. Okay, if something like x is not equal to null, okay, then do something on a x dot something. Okay, I'm understanding it's a method like, okay, for example, somewhere you may be getting an account object and you're saying ac dot get dot print passbook. So this is not returning a value, but it's just return type void kind of a method. Okay, I could now, if I'm doing like this, instead of ac, okay, which is account type, suppose it was a optional type. It was a optional type, in which case, okay, so let me say optional of account now. Okay, so we have optional of account, let's say OA equal to whatever it is, right? Okay, so now the way you can write code is OA dot if present Okay, then what should be done? Yes, it's in the statement now. It's in the method. If it is present, then I want the passbook to be printed. Take out the, this is optional of account, right? So take out the element from there and print the passbook if it is present. Call the print passbook on it. Okay, consumer can be given. Fine, clear? Okay, so now, like this, we have another method also. So like we have the method called if present. If present or else, okay, and you can give a runnable here. Alternate action, some processing. Okay, right. So this kind of method is also available. So what does this do? If it is present, then similar to the earlier case. But in case it is empty, then use this runnable. What is runnable? Recollect runnable I had mentioned when we talked about the functional interfaces list of from java.util function packet. Empty, right? So it is no input, no output, return type void, and there is no input also, just some processing steps. Yes, you can have some processing steps. Okay, fine. So fine, clear. So if present, OA dot if present or else, oh, we have to use that or else, so okay, account colon print passbook. Okay, otherwise, okay, so if it is empty, in that case, okay, anything, fine. I just want to do something like this. Okay, fine. So you could write your code in this manner also. Right? There's no if else statement now. That's the runnable part. This second line here is the runnable. One bracket is missing. You're correct. One bracket for the end of the method. Okay, and that, yes, this here is the runnable. Yeah, that's the processing we want to do. In case it is empty, because there's no input I can give to this now. Okay, so if there is something, I want to print the passbook. If there is some account object, print the passbook. If there's nothing, no object available, fine, just call the, do this processing step. Yeah, there's no processing. It's just like this. Okay, what would happen if it is null? How does this if work? If it is null, simply skips it. That's it. Same thing. Nothing to be done. Okay, but here saying, oh, I want the else part to it. See, it's like the else part to this. Okay. Okay, so we have methods like this. There are other methods as well. For example, there is a method. Okay, so these are methods which were. Okay, see. Okay, I showed you two methods here. These methods will give you the object of type T. Okay, there are other methods as well which are giving you object of type T, but they might throw also. Okay, so for example, we have the method called, okay, let me put the, I think better to copy them. Okay, I'll copy this method, and because the variants on this or else part. It says or else throw. So if you say or else throw, then it's going to throw a null pointer exception. Okay, this is similar to a get basically. This is similar to a invocation of get, but this method has another overload. It says or else throw, and you can give me a supplier of the throwable. Supplier of throwable. That's your supplier. Exception supplier. So the exception which you want to be thrown can be given by this supplier. So this supplier will give us an exception object which will be thrown by the method. So you don't want it to throw the no such element exception. You want it to throw your own specialized exception. Yes, create a supplier for that exception type. Okay. And so you can be creating a supplier for that exception type. Fine. So or else throw. Okay. There's also a method called. Okay. I think we can have a look in the API itself. Right? There are other methods. For example, there's a you have a method which turns like this. It says you have two type parameters. So there is another type parameter. It's an optional of T. So T is already one type parameter, but we have another new type parameter here, U. Okay, and we can have a method called which returns optional of U. Okay, name of the method is map. Okay, and it takes as function which takes input as T and returns a U. We call it as a mapper function. So what are we doing here is I have an optional object which is an optional of account. I convert it into an optional of a string. Okay, fine. I have this optional of account, but I can say, oh, I have an optional of string. Okay, name equal to optional name. Let me call it as optional name is equal to OA dot option. OA is our optional of account. Dot method name is map, and here I'll write lambda, or I can write the method reference. Okay, first a lambda version. Okay, so what it does, it creates a new optional object which is of type string. This is an optional of account. From that, you are converting it into an optional of string by using a method. So what is being done? If it was empty, you'll get a empty. If it is having an object, it will use the get whatever method you have said on this object to obtain the thing of the type string. Fine. You are giving a method, fine, whose input is account and returns string. Okay, fine. This, I think now you understand what is the method reference which may have been used. Simple, right? So count colon get name is a function whose input is account and returns a string.
This is shorter.
Shorter. Okay. Right. So optional name is from an optional of account, map it, right? Use the mapping of account to a string. Okay, account's name. So, right. So you can create from an option, you may create another kind of an option. Okay, you even have something like this. You have another public method, no new type parameter. It will return optional of t. Okay, name of the method is filter, where we can pass a predicate, okay, of t, and that's a test. It does. It returns an option of t only. From an optional of t, it returns an optional of t. Okay. So, for example, I'll say, okay, I'll use that OA as a object of type account. So, optional of account. Okay. Fine. It will say positive account, okay, equal to optional of account dot filter. Okay, given an account dot get balance is greater than 0. So what this will do? It returns an optional object. From an optional object, it's returning an optional object. But what happens if the balance is less than 0? In that case, it was not empty earlier. It will now return an empty one. Fine. If it was empty, it will return empty. The optional of account may be empty. That's the first thing. If it is empty, I'm returning empty. If it is not empty, but it doesn't satisfy this condition, then it will become empty.
Accounts with a negative balance accounts.
Yeah, this will prevent. So if there is a negative balance account, I'm not keeping it. I'm dropping it from the box.
So, but in this, the accounts with the balance greater than 0
will be the ones which will be available. If it is the case, then that's the one which is available. Otherwise, your box is going to become empty.
It is greater than 0. So if the balance is 0, still it would not be there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, you can change that. I mean, the idea is there is some condition which I have put here. Okay, you could have said greater than equal to also to include 0 balance.
Everything is included.
No, negative is not included. That's all. We have penalty because of which it can become negative.
Okay, yeah, if you withdraw some money and already have 100 rupees and then it goes to minus. So it is a condition check.
So any condition check may be there. So it's a filter. If it is already empty, it becomes empty. It doesn't satisfy this condition. This predicate is not passing. It is going to become empty. So there are more chances of this becoming empty compared to the earlier optional. So from an optional, you are returning a more stricter optional. Okay. Okay, fine. Let's look at the API. Fine. Some methods, if we have missed out, I think we have missed out a few of them. Yeah, there is a map. There's also a flat map method called flat map. This is map, right? We have seen the map method. Okay, filter method. There's a map method. I'll put it below the map itself, so we can see the difference between the two of them. Okay, I think after the example here. So there's also a method to return an optional of u. Name of the method is flat map. But the difference here is the function is returning the optional of u. The mapper which you give is responsible for returning the new kind of optional. Here, the method was responsible for just converting account into a string. This one says, no, for a given account, give me the optional of string. Okay, and that's so there's one which is map. So map is on the element within the box, right? Within the optional, and it works on the element of the optional. Whereas this one says, if I find okay, this one says, fine, given this optional object, fine, give me the optional of a new type. Given the object, right? Given the element, which is account, given an account, give me the optional of string. Earlier it was from account to string, that was a method. Here it is account to the optional of string. Okay, the function is different. Quickly look at the other methods of the API. Okay, okay, I still remember. Okay, see, this optional can be converted into a stream. So we do have methods like this. So even another method, public method, returns a stream of type T. Name of the method is stream. So optional can be considered as a stream. So streams can be empty. So optional is empty, stream is empty. If optional has a value, stream with only one element. So stream actually has a stream of elements. We haven't yet covered what is a stream, but yes, this is also a method. So optional can be converted into a stream. That's one thing. Okay, it can be considered as a stream which is either empty or having only one element. Okay, let's look at the optional class. Okay, you will also find these classes: optional int, optional long, optional double. Okay, and they represent no values. I'll explain the case why this optional int, optional long, optional double, why they can also be there. Okay, why optional for the primitives also. Okay. But anyway, first look at the methods. Static methods were 3. These are the 3 static methods. Fine. And here are the instance methods. Equals anyway. So filter, right? That takes a predicate. Flat map. We have the get method, hash code anyway. If present, you have a consumer. If present or else, we have consumer and are enable, the empty action. Okay, is empty, is present. We have the map. We have this method called or. Okay, in the method or, Fine. See the difference between or else and or method. What's the difference? In or else, you are giving the default value. Okay. In case it is empty, that's the value to be returned. Now here, in case it is empty, I'm not giving you you pass me a supplier from where I'll fetch the value. I'll call the get method on the given supplier to get the value. So OR method uses a supplier, not a hard-coded fixed value. Maybe someone is asking for optional of, there is an optional of date time, local date time. Okay, optional of local date time. Right? So one can say, okay, local date time, I'll give you the 1119, whatever is the value 0, maybe some fixed time. So that is the method OR, right? But or else will say, okay, if I don't find it is present, let me give you the current date time. So I'll have a supplier which gives me the current date time. It's not a fixed value. Not hard-coded value, right? Not a fixed value. Okay. So you have to give a supplier. The supplier is going to pick up the current time and then return. So fine. So this is, so OR method is for using a supplier. See, or else get is a supplier of, acha, even we have the or else get also, right? Okay. That also uses a supplier. Then that was supplier for the optional. See, or was returning an optional. Or gives us an option, or else get is giving us the element. So it's a supplier for the element. So it is more, what I mentioned was more appropriate for the or else get. Okay. And we have or else throw, where a supplier of the exception supplier is there. Okay. Stream and toString method. And so these are the methods of optional. Another one, so a quick one, we'll have to have, and we'll quickly just look at another set of classes. Okay. We have these three classes which are int summary statistics, the long summary statistics, and the double summary. Okay, we have these three classes here. Okay, these three classes are consumers. They are all consumer. Fine. For example, the int summary statistics. I'm just taking example of the int summary statistics. Okay, it implements, implements the int consumer. So accordingly, each of them is implementing the corresponding consumer. So if it's a consumer, what is the method available to us? If it's an int consumer, the method name is consumer, return type is void, method name is accept, parameter is an int. Okay, the value. Okay, so these are all consumer, all of them are consumer objects. They are maintaining summary statistics. So summary statistics for what? What are the summary statistics? If I say statistics, what are the statistics? For integer values, right? It's for all kinds of integer values. You have a number of integer values which have been fed into this object. You created an object of IntSummary statistics and you are feeding integer values into it. What are the statistics it will maintain? What are the statistics you may expect? You may expect a statistic of count. How many elements have I added? Okay. So I think method name I'll have to check. It's probably get count. or count. We'll have to see whether the get prefix is there or not. Okay, fine. Method name will just confirm. So one is to know the count. What else? Which is the min. Okay, get min or min. I'm not sure. We'll check that. Int for the max, min max, average. Average will be of type double. There are 5 statistics. Sum. Fine. So the integer values which have been fed to this particular object, give me the sum of them. Okay. So basically, internally, it's not keeping all the integer objects which are giving to it. It's only managing these 5 values internally. There are 5 variables internally where these values have been managed. As you put a value, it updates all wherever applicable. Min max, if it changes, yes, it will update that. Count will be updated, average will be updated, sum will be updated. See, sum and count can help it to give it the average value. So maybe it's not even keeping the average. Internally, it may not even keep the average. It needs to maintain sum, count, min, max. Average is computed. Sum and count. And those can help it to compute the average. Okay. So I think the method names may not be having the get. That's what the feeling I'm getting. Okay. So this should be the method called count. It of course has a toString method. Okay, you'll find the toString is quite friendly. Okay, it's a friendly output. It will get where it says, okay, this is in summary statistics, min is this, max is this, count is this, sum is this, average is this. So a toString method which gives out all the values. Okay, fine. Methods to know all the five fields. Okay, internally maybe only 4 fields. Okay, the method called except where the object may be fed with any integer anytime. Okay, fine. So when you want to create an object of IntSummary statistics, the constructor default. One is default. Okay, and all values will be 0. Other is you can even create a IntSummary statistics by providing initial values for one will be the long for the count. We'll have to check the order of these parameters. Right? Another int for the min, another int for the max, and min max, count min max, and another long for the sum. Yeah. Okay. So you can create a object like this. So initial values can be there, and then it will keep on updating. Okay. There's also a method. Okay, we have methods to even. So we even have a public method to, where you can merge with another IntSummary statistics. This is IntSummary statistics, and you might like to merge from another one. Yeah, so that can be done. I'm forgetting the method name. Okay, we'll check on the method name in the API. Okay, but that's the whole point here, right? Okay, so like this in summary statistics, there's a long summary statistics and double summary statistics. Okay, okay, quick look at the API. So we have the we have the classes, we have the, I can pick up the double summary statistics also because hmm. double summary statistics. Fine, and they are same basically. Okay, so constructors, yes, you can see there are constructors like this. Fine, count, min, max, and sum, and that's what is needed for creating the object of summary statistics. And methods, if you look at the methods, yes, except method because it's a double consumer. Okay, the method was combined, right? The method has a prefix of get everywhere. Yeah, get. Okay, so put that prefix and toString, and you'll need that get everywhere. Yeah. Okay, method name was combine. That's one thing here. Public. Let's update this here. Get count, get min, get max, get average, and get sum. Okay, other method is combine. Return type for combine was void. Okay, combine with another int summary statistics. Okay. Okay, so find managing summary statistics for int long double. Okay, just coming back to one small point which is related to the optional, right? Where optional will come into picture, why that is so often used. Yeah. Yeah. See, combining means okay, you have min max. There are two min max now. We will have the min among them. We'll have the max among them. We have the sum among them, and you have to add the counts.
So you're taking two mins, combining, and then getting a min out of it and putting it.
Yes.
The combination of all the personal values and then making one.
There are no values maintained. See, it's not keeping track of all the values. It's just maintaining 4 values. Okay.
Any chances of flashing?
Yeah, any?
Chances of flashing in the sense?
There's no clash because it's about, see, same value occurs twice, then yes, it will affect the sum, but average may not be affected. Maybe. There is something which may be affected, which may not be affected. Min max may not be affected if I'm getting the same value again. So it's a statistics. So any number of values may have come to me. Okay. And these 4 things, and they'll take care, and they can be merged. Okay. Now coming to that optional thing, right? Okay. Suppose you are given an array. So you want to write a method, right? Public void and okay, no, not void. I'll write a method returns int and name of the method is min. Okay, parameter is int array. Okay, yeah. Okay, you know how to write this, right? Just think someone invoking a method like this, min. I want to call the method min and pass a parameter of type new int 0 elements. What should this method return? If there's nothing, there's no min. I can't be giving you a min from an empty thing. So this one should normally have optional int. Okay. Your check will be here to return an optional int if values dot length is equal to 0, right? You can write like this, values dot length equals 0, and you'll say return optional int dot empty. So we have optional int, optional long, optional double also. The optional variant for int long and double is also there. Okay. Fine. Otherwise, yes, normally we would say initial, you'll say int initial min equals values of 0. Start with the first one, assume that's a minimum, and then we compare it. And we know how to do this now, right? Rest of the code we know. And clear? So why that optional for primitives also? So we have optional int, optional long, optional double. So there are methods we'll come across when we look at the streams also, right? So next we are actually going towards the streams, okay? But yes, this is what should be very clear with us, okay? These are all things which are used there, most of the things. And many of those things from the function, java.util function package, yes, they'll come handy. Consumer, right? And consumer, supplier, everything, almost most of the things are going to be used. Okay, fine. So, fine, we'll continue tomorrow then.